Please subscribe our channel for future videos.
Welcome to the channel, where we go beyond the headlines and dig into the truth behind Washington's power games. Stay with me, because today's story exposes how a single reckless appointment could shake the very foundation of Trump's retribution campaign.
As he seeks to smash and grab $230 million, Donald Trump's reckless campaign to wreck the rule of law with his prosecutions is today wobbling a bit like a Jenga tower that got a little too tall. Today, in two jurisdictions in the Eastern District of Virginia and in New Jersey, Trump's hand-picked prosecutors, both with zero experience as prosecutors, but totally down with going after Trump's critics, regardless of the facts in the cases, are both facing challenges to their appointments, to the legality of them. Politico is reporting that judges appeared skeptical of Alina Habba's appointment to be the acting U.S. attorney in New Jersey. And whatever happens in Alina Habba's case could have an impact on a challenge to the appointment of Lindsey Halligan over in the Eastern District of Virginia. Former director of the FBI, Jim Comey, has filed a motion claiming that Halligan's appointment was unlawful since U.S. attorneys are only allowed to serve without Senate confirmation for 120 days, and the previous U.S. attorney in the job had already served a full 120-day stint. That would be Eric Siebert, who we have covered here. He was fired for refusing to bring the cases against Jim Comey and New York Attorney General Tish James because there wasn't enough evidence. If the court rules in Comey's favor and finds that Halligan was improperly appointed, Comey's case could be tossed out, as could the case against Tish James. These, of course, are two pillars of Trump's retribution campaign that would collapse because the Trump administration hastily put inexperienced loyalists in the positions of U.S. attorneys without any regard for the law. But the cases against Comey and James might be in danger even before any court rules on Halligan's appointment. A reporter named Anna Bauer from the news outlet Lawfare is reporting that Halligan started a bizarre 33-hour text exchange with her on Signal. Bauer writes this, quote, "She initiated a conversation with me, a reporter she barely knew, to discuss an ongoing prosecution that she is personally handling. She mostly criticized my reporting, or more precisely, my summary of someone else's reporting, but several of her messages contained language that touched on grand jury matters, even as she insisted that she could not reveal such information, which is protected from disclosure by prosecutors under federal law. Not once during their conversation did Lindsey Halligan say that their conversation was off the record." Here's what happened when Bauer, the journalist, reached out for comment from the Justice Department. Quote, "Halligan texted me, quote, 'By the way, everything I ever sent you is off the record. You're not a journalist, so it's weird saying that, but just letting you know.' I responded, 'I'm sorry, but that is not how this works. You don't get to say that in retrospect.' Halligan was unpersuaded. 'Yeah, I do, off record. I'm really sorry. I would have been happy to speak with you on an off-the-record basis had you asked,' I said, 'but you didn't ask. And I still haven't agreed to speak with you on that basis. Do you have any further comment for the story?' To my surprise, Halligan kept going. Quote, 'It's obvious the whole combo's off record. There's disappearing messages, and it's on Signal. What's your story? You never told me about a story.' I didn't respond. It was time to publish my story. I'll text it to her." We're back with Andrew and Mike.
What we're watching here isn't just about two prosecutors, it's about the fragility of power when loyalty replaces law. Think about it, appointing inexperienced loyalists to carry out political revenge doesn't just break the system, it erodes public trust brick by brick. Lindsey Halligan's 33-hour text exchange with a reporter, something no seasoned prosecutor would ever do, tells us one thing clearly: the line between justice and politics is not just blurred anymore. It's vanishing. And that's dangerous for every democracy.
As James Comey's attorneys are arguing that Lindsey Halligan was improperly appointed to her role, Trump's handpicked U.S. attorney in Virginia is attracting scrutiny for another reason. Lindsey Halligan reportedly spent some 33 hours on and off during a recent weekend texting with a reporter. Not in regards to Comey's case, but that of another one of the president's targets, New York Attorney General Letitia James. It was reporting on that case that kickstarted this back and forth that you're about to see. Let me explain. Anna Bauer is a senior editor for the nonprofit publication Lawfare. She recently posted about a New York Times story concerning the case that was being made against the New York Attorney General, and Halligan is the person, of course, who presented that case to the grand jury. Less than an hour after Bauer posted about it, Halligan messaged her directly on the encrypted app Signal that reporters often use. And according to Bauer, Lindsey Halligan wrote, quote, "Anna, Lindsey Halligan here. You're reporting things that are simply not true. Thought you should have a heads up." What followed that initial text was more than a day of text insisting that the reporting from the New York Times was inaccurate. Now, Bauer hadn't reported that, but because she had repeated it online, Halligan was going back and forth with her on the merits of that reporting. Then, after a few hours, Halligan wrote, "By the way, everything I ever sent you is off record. You're not a journalist, so it's weird saying that, but just letting you know." Bauer responded, quote, "I'm sorry, but that's not how this works. You don't get to say that in retrospect." She then tonight posted the entire text chain to Lawfare and
So here's where it gets even more unsettling. If the courts rule that Lindsey Halligan's appointment was unlawful, the entire case against James Comey and Letitia James could collapse overnight. Imagine that, two of the biggest names in Trump's so-called retribution mission. Gone, not because of evidence, but because of how the game was played. But let's go deeper. What does this say about the system itself? When laws start to serve individuals instead of the nation, when prosecutors chase critics instead of criminals, when truth is treated like a personal opinion, that's when justice becomes a show. And right now, Washington looks more like a stage than a courtroom. This story isn't just about Trump or Halligan, it's about what happens when loyalty becomes currency in the corridors of power. The real question isn't if the cases will fall apart. It's what will fall next. Stay tuned, because the next ruling could flip this entire political chessboard upside down. And if you think this story ends here, think again. Don't forget to hit subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and keep your eyes open, because this storm in Washington is far from over.